Street, we're at 10th and Grant, waiting for a tow phone. You wish to tow? Nobody's ordered one yet. I believe it was called on channel 1. Okay, we have 482 coming out there for the hit and run. You might wait for him. Will do. Yes, sir. We're doing Southeast Coast South Marion on passenger south. Okay, 203. 482. 482. Let us know. You'll be out on that. Okay. Your location again.
On the morning of August 6, 2005, the busy port city of Fortaleza in northeastern Brazil woke up to what seemed like an ordinary weekend. While residents continued their daily routines, an extraordinary event, one that would enter the history books, was about to be revealed at a government bank. No alarms had gone off, no shots had been fired, no obvious trace had been left behind. Yet more than 160 million Brazilian reals in cash had silently vanished from the central bank vault. At the time, that amounted to about $70 million and weighed roughly 3.5 tons. It was the largest cash robbery in Brazilian history, and one of the biggest in the world. When authorities began examining what lay beneath the building, they came face to face with one of the most ingenious crimes ever committed. A narrow tunnel stretching for dozens of meters, starting from a fake landscaping business, and a robbery plan that looked like something straight out of a movie. Many of us watched Money Heist and thought such operations could only exist in fiction. But this real-life heist was planned with intelligence and precision equal to, if not greater than, anything seen on screen. It stands as one of the most extraordinary robberies ever documented. This is the unbelievable story of how millions of dollars disappeared underground without anyone noticing, the quietest yet most shocking bank robbery in history. Everything began months before the robbery. The mastermind of the plan was a man known by the nickname Alemão, whose real name was José Van Santos. The financier behind the operation was another figure known as Fernando Ribeiro, the money source and darker force behind the plan. The robbery crew consisted of about 34 members, each assigned a specific role: construction workers, professional tunnel diggers, former criminals, people with engineering knowledge, and most importantly, insiders who leaked security information from the bank. Some members were already experienced in tunnel escapes and similar crimes. When Alemão began searching for a strategic property near the bank, the objective was simple: start from a location that would not attract suspicion and dig a tunnel that would reach the vault of Brazil's central bank, a symbol of the country's financial security. The bank was known for fortress-level protection and stored massive amounts of cash underground, making it an irresistible target for determined criminals. After weeks of scouting, they rented a modest house on a quiet street close enough to the bank. But a major problem remained. Digging such a tunnel would produce huge amounts of soil, and that could easily raise suspicion. They needed a cover story. Their solution was to open a fake landscaping and synthetic grass company. Since landscaping naturally involves soil and sand transport, trucks carrying dirt would not look suspicious. The house was painted green and given the name grama sintética, meaning synthetic grass. From the outside, it looked like a legitimate lawn and garden business. The company was officially registered by a gang member using the alias Paulo Sergio. Interestingly, the fake ID used for registration showed a birth date of August 5, 1968. Exactly matching the planned robbery date. The fake grass store was more than a simple disguise. It was a fully functioning cover operation. Through this front, they monitored the area for weeks, analyzed the underground structure, and finalized the tunnel route. No one imagined that behind this ordinary shop, the largest crime project in Brazilian history was being carefully constructed. When the first shovel hit the ground, it was May. After completing all preparations, the crew dug about 4 meters down from the house floor and began advancing toward the bank vault. A 7-person digging team worked in continuous shifts. One worker loosened the soil, another bagged it, another tied the sacks, and others pulled them back using ropes. Outside, the team stacked and transported the bags day and night. The biggest logistical challenge was disposing of the enormous volume of soil quietly and without suspicion. Truckloads were moved at night under the excuse of landscaping work and dumped far outside the city. To avoid drawing attention, the vans were kept clean on the outside and the soil was covered with tarps. When daily transport started to look suspicious, they began storing soil inside the house instead, sealing off filled rooms with new walls. Eventually, every room was packed, and they even raised the garden level by nearly 1 meter with excess dirt, all without alerting neighbors or authorities. Tunnel digging normally creates noticeable noise, yet somehow they remained undetected. At one point, they encountered a sewage line and carefully adjusted direction to continue. By the time the tunnel was nearly complete, it stretched about 80 meters long and only 70 centimeters wide, just enough for a person to crawl through, narrow but highly functional. Because oxygen levels drop quickly in tunnels of that length, they installed a ventilation system with fans and air pipes to pump in fresh air continuously. To prevent collapse, they reinforced the walls with around 900 wooden boards. They installed water lines, battery-powered lighting to avoid blackout risk, and an internal wired communication system instead of phones to avoid electronic evidence. GPS data and city maps helped them avoid damaging underground infrastructure. This was less like a crime tunnel and more like an underground engineering project. As the robbery date approached, the tension increased. After 3 full months of work, on the evening of Friday, August 5, 2005, the tunnel finally reached directly beneath the central bank's underground vault. Weeks of measurements and calculations had paid off. They hit the exact target with near-millimeter precision. You might wonder how the robbers knew the exact vault location. The key came from insider information provided by 2 former bank security guards, Deosimar Quiros and Edilson Vieira. Both had previously worked at the central bank and had legitimate access to sensitive areas. They supplied critical details such as vault positioning, patrol schedules, and alarm system behavior. Combined with the gang's engineering expertise, this allowed them to calculate the exact tunnel path scientifically rather than by guesswork. Even a small deviation would have caused total failure. But they did not miss. Only one obstacle remained: the vault wall. It was protected by roughly 1 meter of steel-reinforced concrete. To breach it, they used industrial drilling machines, hydraulic jacks, metal cutters, and welding equipment. This phase was extremely risky because of the noise, but since the bank was closed, no one noticed the vibrations. After about 3 hours, they broke through. By coincidence, or planning, a forklift used for moving cash had been left parked in front of a camera's line of sight earlier that day, blocking visibility. After entering, the robbers also stacked pallets in front of the opening to further hide it from cameras. Another security weakness helped them. Although there were 5 cameras in the vault area, none recorded footage. They only displayed live images with no zoom capability. Identifying faces was impossible. Newly printed banknotes had traceable serial numbers, so they ignored them. Instead, they targeted older 50-reel notes that were not serial tracked and were scheduled for removal from circulation, nearly impossible to trace once released. The crew worked with strict roll discipline. Some removed bundles, others counted, others packed sacks. The transfer began Friday at 10 p.m. and finished around 6 a.m. Saturday morning. The final amount was staggering: 164 million Brazilian reals, about $70 million at the time, weighing approximately 3.5 tons. Stacked vertically, the cash would reach roughly 330 meters high. Although the bank had alarm systems, they were focused on doors, windows, and standard entry points, not underground intrusion. The tunnel approach fell entirely within the system's blind spot. No alarms were triggered. After 11 hours of intense work, the final phase began: the escape.